Hey folks, it's Mr. Muff, and I'm bringing to you a 3 versus 3 on the Operation Market Garden mod for Company of Heroes. Today we are playing on St. Lo, and we have on the allies JJ Punk, Gobbo Slayer, and Area against Stormtrout, Whiskey Jack, and Sneakerhead. So let's take a look at the units and get started. As you can see here, we are looking at a double Churchill start from somebody, Gobbo Slayer. Along with some infantry sections to back it up. From Area, we've got a Greyhound and a Jeep to rapidly scout ahead, perhaps flanked around the back and lay some mines, backed up by an AT gun and some rifles. We don't see the third allied player because they're coming in with some gliders, some machine guns, a 2-pounder, and some commando wins. And then on the Axis side, we have Whiskey Jack as Panzer Elite, starting with some Marder and some half-tracks. Stormtrout as Panzer Elite, starting with a mortar half-track and some panzergrenadiers. And then over here on the left, Sneakerhead is Wehrmacht, starting with some machine guns, lots of machine guns, and some grenadiers. So, we'll see how all the support weapons match up against JJ Punk's very aggressive commando start. He looks like he's trying to get fortified into this position here very quickly with these machine guns and using his sappers to put down mines. So that's going to be a bit of a nasty trap, but it looks like Sneakerhead is fading right a little bit to just sort of form up with his team. Setting up a very sort of passive backline machine gun here. Doesn't seem particularly interested in taking the middle of the map at this time, so we'll see what his teammates do instead. I'm going to switch this to the allied side just so that, because that's where the camera is turned around, it'll be easier to see what's going on a little bit. In theory, where are all the icons? I don't know how this game works. Anyway, here's the first engagement. So we are playing on the new patch, and as you can see here, by the sound, this should be a commando gun, right? But the model is not. But this patch was supposed to change the commando machine gun to the American 30 cal. I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking at here, because I believe that it's supposed to change the model as well, but this is fairly certain to Vickers. At any rate, JJ Punk thinning up some flamethrowers and going to come across the street with his commandos under smoke to do whatever this is. Boom, setting up a demo charge. Not entirely sure that was worth it. But it looks like Whiskey Jack was going to try to get one up on this commando gun here with his armored car flank, but Gobbo Slayer coming to the rescue with his Churchills. Going to have something to say about that, and Whiskey Jack, on the other hand, is going to try to finish the job with his light AT half-track. But with the sticky bomb going off from Area, he's going to want to get this Marder out of here. Unfortunately for Area, the Marder did not have enough missing health to trigger the critical from the sticky bomb, so that's just going to do some health damage. The engine, or whatever mobility crit it might have incurred, is going to be fine for now. And on the other hand, it looks like Whiskey Jack managed to get a tread break off on this Churchill. Where's the music gone, folks? Looks like the Allies have neglected to capture up this right side for a bit, as they're just sort of focusing on controlling the middle. But it's working out for them, because you can see that they are gaining population at an increased rate compared to the Axis, just because they have the Axis so bubbled in over here. So it looks like Sneakerhead is bringing up an AT gun to try to combat all of these heavy tanks fielded by Gobbo Slayer specifically. I don't think anyone else has any tanks. So here comes the panzergrenadier blob with all of their incendiary grenades on this poor rifle section from Gobbo Slayer. Meanwhile, over here on the right, Whiskey Jack is pushing up very aggressively with his Marder straight into an AT gun. I did not see what happened there, but I imagine that had to have been a misclick or something, or maybe he just decided he didn't want the Marder anymore, which I can't imagine is the case with all of the heavy tanks on from Gobbo Slayer. So, not a very good push here from Whiskey Jack all by himself straight into Area's defenses. Area, you can see, has set up a machine gun bunker that's caught out his Ostron veterans. But Stormtrout coming in with his Panzerschrecks in the back, try to save the day, could blow up this weapon emplacement, can decrew this AT gun. Manages to do that, then it's going to be free reign for all of the Panzer Elite light vehicles that are currently shifting over to the right to just sweep in. Here comes an off-map artillery barrage. Danger close on whoever they call that in. I don't know which type of barrage that is, but it did a lot of damage to both this Panzer Grenadier and this AT gun. Looks like this Vet 2 crew is going to get away for now, but the X's are going to want to take this AT gun because with two Panzer Elite players, they want to deny as much anti-tank from the enemy as possible. Now, these 57 mils have an exceptionally poor penetration modifier against Churchills, so they're not going to be particularly useful against Churchills, but they are going to be useful just to deny them from the enemy, because Panzer Elite is so reliant on light vehicles. So, looks like Whiskey Jack is going to just keep it on the front, though, and try to reinforce this position rather than moving it back. Not exactly what I would do. Yeah, now he's going to move it back. And these Ostron veterans are just going to try to buy some time against these machine guns that are setting up. Decent hit off on the quad, but the squad is going to be able to get around it. You want to move these... When you capture an AT gun, oftentimes the enemy is going to try to get it back with a vengeance. So you want to get it back behind your lines as soon as you can, so things like this don't happen. And that AT gun is probably going to be, definitely going to be decrewed now. And it's going to be difficult to hold on to it because all of the other troops are in the back healing, or otherwise not in position to help. Now these commandos are going to come up and just dominate this area here. I will say, JJ Punk and Gobbo Slayer, well, Gobbo Slayer is sending some units here. The bulk of JJ Punk units are pretty content to just sort of chill here on the left. He's got a lot of support weapons and some Piats and things. Those Piats would be really useful over here. I understand wanting to sort of protect a side with some anti-tank, but I mean, the fight's going on over here, and the main obstacle to your commandos that you're fighting over here is nothing to do with the Stug. That said, Gobbo Slayer was able to capture this anti-tank gun. I like to see players who are willing to use upgraded squads to capture weapons when it is clear that you need them. That said, same problem here, right? He captured the AT gun and he did not actually move it back, which meant it just remained in danger and was taken out by, I think it was the pack gun there? One of these anti-tank assets. There goes the LT as well. New anti-tank gun on from Area, but the Stug is just going to do his best to keep trying to crush these Tommies while they're suppressed by the machine gun. You hate to see it. And the AT gun isn't even properly set up to shoot over here either, although it might have had sort of cover here from this hedge line. So, big rifle blob from Area to replace all the stuff that he lost before. I really want to see Gobbo Slayer and JJ Punk do something on the left here, because all of the Axis have concentrated their forces right here, and that would leave JJ Punk free to do whatever he wanted in here with the help of this tank, to just sort of wrangle control of the center of this map in addition to this far flank that he's been able to get over here. Wow, nice Piat shot. Right, because I mean the Axis, the only place that the Axis actively control is this one little spot. They have ceded control of the entire map, and JJ Punk, by letting his units sit here, I realize that he's healing. But, I mean, these units have been here for a while. I feel like he's sort of looking a gift horse in them. I don't know how the turn of phrase goes, but he's not taking advantage of a gift that's being given to him. Meanwhile, his teammates are fighting sort of more or less 3-on-2 over here and holding their own, so it's not looking great for the Axis right now. And to be honest, the fact that this is just sort of the way the game is going, the Axis are fighting with a numerical advantage and not able to actually make anything of it. But now we can see JJ Punk is moving up, starting to engage the enemy. He's managed to destroy the engine on this Stug, so that's going to be easy for his sappers to finish off on their own time. Looks like Area has gotten a flank off with his rifles, but they're being slowed by the G43s while the other units in the front are being suppressed by this machine gun. So this attack is going in a little bit haphazard. The Churchill does go down. JJ Punk taking a lot of casualties for what is ostensibly just... Oh, I see. There's a Stu on. I thought this was the same Stug, but it's new. That's what he's taking casualties from. Although, saying that, it doesn't have any kills. So yeah, we just take a lot of casualties for just a couple panzergrenadiers over here. So... maybe I shouldn't count the Axis out just yet, because for all the sort of pushing that the Allies are doing, they're doing so at some heavy losses. Oh, you see the homing Panzerschreck roll the hit before it, or after the Jeep moved. You know what I'm getting at. So, this Stu has decided to move to the middle here. I guess he decided that he didn't want to try to deal with these sappers, didn't have anything to position to deal with the sappers, because there's no hard anti-tank from JJ Punk on. The sappers are his Piat anti-tank units. He doesn't have commando Piats on the field at the moment, and he has no 17-pounders or anything like that. There's a Burger Tiger on now from Whiskey Jack. Wonder what it is that he wants to revive. Maybe the mortar half-track? Or there's a mortar half-track here. So I don't know what this is. Just a half-track. I'm not sure what else there is to recover. But it looks like the Axis are starting to shift left now, and this might be a bit of their undoing because the other allies are getting ready to push up over here. JJ Punk is spread pretty thinly across the map. He's got some of his troops here. And he's got a smaller number of troops with very minimal anti-tank holding the left side as the Axis are moving over that way. But it looks like they are starting to recognize that the Allies are now pushing the right because they are shifting back over this way. There's no machine gun or any other heavy anti-infantry on this side to stop this big blob of lieutenant-boosted rifle sections with rifle grenades. Which could do a lot of damage to the guys in this building if not for the medic half-track that's set up and healing them very slowly but surely. That said, this medic half-track is fairly damaged. Good shot from the 17-pounder with some AP rounds would do a lot of damage to it, but of course with all of these infantry here, it's going to want to get those troops out of there, and you can see them dropping a very sort of danger close artillery barrage to try to get these units to back up. I'm assuming that was an allied artillery barrage. Maybe it was a decoy barrage from somebody, I'm not sure. Well, somebody had an idea with it anyway. JJ Punk's mortar has now been found by these Volksgrenadiers. If he's not careful, he might lose it. It looks like he's sending his commandos in to try to save them, but I think he's going to lose the mortar. Oh no, Sneakerhead, commit to that. You've got your unit here to back you up. Just finish off the crew while they're packed up. That's a shame. Very... Volksgrenadiers for a mortar is more than a good enough trade, but if JJ Punk is just going to let it be decrewed while it's set up, then this could work out in Secret's favor because it could let him just steal it. And he is going to, so I think it's a little bit of a misplay by both players, actually. Interesting. Sneakerhead destroys the weapon. Well, there's just a little bit of a comedy of errors going on here. None of that is what I would have done, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has something else in mind that he wants to do. You know, mortars are great tools, especially if you're playing against, excuse me, playing with 2 PE players. Because the number of weapon teams that you're going to have to work with is pretty minimal. So if you can capture weapon teams from the enemy, that's great. You want to do that. But I suppose Sneakerhead is thinking, well, I don't have a huge amount of infantry on the field right now on account of all the other units I have. I'm not really sure what the reasoning was with that. Anyway, here comes an artillery barrage coming in on the Burger-Tiger, trying to revive this half-track. It's a 105 from area, so area is playing infantry. I'm not sure if we saw any doctrinal stuff with it yet. He's shooting a little bit to the side. Maybe he was targeting something else had he had line of sight on here and he didn't see the unit reviving. But he's not really going to get a whole lot for his money from this, it looks like. Well, finishing off that one guy. But I mean, shooting here or shooting there, if he was able to see either of those things, perhaps it might have been more fruitful. So, lots of napalm grenades from the Panzer Elite this game, as you might expect, but it's not going to be enough for Whiskey Jack to hold off all these guys by himself. Thankfully, Stormchild is coming to the rescue. Panzer Elite desperately trying to hold off the Allies while they revive this half-track. I hope whatever this is worth it, because they're taking a lot of casualties in the process. Meanwhile, Sneakerhead over here really just sort of in a standoff with JJ Punk. Some decent kills racked up so far in this mortar half-track, though I will say that, and it looks like this half-track, we'll find out shortly what it is, will be on the field again shortly. Real quick, let's hit up the population. Allies almost up to 40 pop now. They're gaining just shy of 1 a minute. So in a couple minutes, if the Axis aren't able to take control of the map in a more even kind of way, they're going to start losing pop well before they ever hit 40. So that's definitely something that they're going to want to start to address soon. Sneakerhead looks like he's having a very difficult time dealing with JJ Punk's commandos and Piats over here, which is interesting because they're not commando Piats, they're commandos and Piats. All of these Piats are on sappers. We have seen, of course, in previous games the power of the Piat commando, but these are just Piats and commandos. Here comes a grenade. Nice kill on the machine gun. That's going to clear the way for the rest of these troops to move in. I'd like to see a decisive play here from the Axis to try to sweep off some of JJ Punk's units that he's been using very cost effectively. He's had a lot of these same sort of damage squads, so far as I can tell, on the field for a long time, just sort of recycling with the healing. So here's a new artillery piece on for the Axis. This is Whiskey Jack's Hummel. Gets a 3 kills off that guy, then a finish off there, although I suspect, even though it didn't get many kills, I suspect these guys who are all super damaged were damaged by that artillery barrage. Now this Stew is going to come in and try to finish it off. However, here comes an AVRE from Gabo Slayer. There is a new doctrinal ability that was added in this patch for Scots Engineers that give them an armor-piercing petard mortar shell for the AVRE, so this is a threat now for vehicles as well as for infantry. It's a one or the other. It either does massive AP damage and virtually no AoE, or the other way around. And I'm a little bit confused as to why he isn't using it, unless it was used at some point and I just didn't see it. Well, certainly interesting, but Firefly is going to come and finish the job for sure. And with all of these armored vehicles coming out from the Allies now, if they wanted to, and let's switch on the Fog of War for a minute here, because with the Fog of War off, we can easily tell if the Allies wanted to, with this AVRE, Firefly, and Sherman, they could easily sweep through and overwhelm everything that the Axis have here, because the Axis are really sort of investing a disproportionate amount of troops to address this foothold that JJ Punk is very stubbornly holding on to over here. using this barn with this machine gun and these cloaked Piats really to his advantage, and then whenever anything comes over, he just backs it up with his commandos and then sends them back to heal back at this CCS that he built a while ago. But it looks like the Allies have not identified how really sort of thinly spread the Axis is over here. Concentrate a push with all of these armored vehicles backed up by a little bit of infantry, which is totally overwhelmed. There's just a pack gun here, which can be dealt with by the AVRE, and a Marder, which can be dealt with by the Firefly and Sherman, and this Piat, if they really wanted to. And the Axis really just wouldn't have anything to stop it. But instead, I guess they are not really sort of aware at this point just how thin the Axis is on this side. And instead just sort of spreading out, JJ Punk using his Firefly to do, I'm not sure what, there's not any vehicles over there. But looks like the Allies are going to instead attempt a piecemeal push here. Let's see if we can, how much damage is AP. Wow, Zers! AP shell from the AVRE, one hit kills the Marder. I'm not sure whether that was a Marder that had been, oh, that's unfortunate, repaired repeatedly or not, but regardless, that is a big blow for the Axis right now, because now all they have for anti-tank on the right here is the 1 AT gun. Very aggressive push again from JJ Punk with his commandos trying to take out these Panzerschrecks, but it's going to take a lot of casualties. This is a bit of a sort of poorly coordinated play here. You would have liked to see him only do this with his rifle. I mean, alright. I mean, clear the way for the Firefly, but I mean, the Firefly isn't really going to do anything against these infantry, even if you do get the Panzerschrecks out of the way. But he's not giving up. He's going to go for the crush. Gets one guy, but not on the right squad. And this Firefly is just... Listen, 17-pounders are no good against light vehicles. This happening right here is about what you would expect. Light vehicles have phase armor against 17-pounders. It's not as bad for the Firefly as it is for the 17-pounder towed gun, but it's still pretty bad. And so this was really just sort of a mismatch of units here that JJ Punk played into, and this is about the sort of outcome that you would really expect. So learn from that mistake, dear viewers. Gobbo Slayer not letting up with this AVRE, taking out a machine gun. Let's see if his teammates are able to capitalize on that now. He's moving in aggressively, trying to deal with this AT gun. Stickerhead trying to use his Panzerschrecks to back it up, and his teammate with the other Panzerschrecks coming in as well. You want to see his teammates, you want to see the allied teammates, I should say, come in and back him up. Otherwise, he's just going to be throwing away these tanks for nothing. This is a great breakthrough opportunity, but his team needs to make use of it. As far as even using the LT to try to gun down the crew on this thing, that's what they really need right now, is to just get this decrewed, and they can finish it off. There's no other anti-tank in this area except for this Panzerschreck. But these Volks are just going to crew the AT gun. I think the AT gun is destroyed. No, it's still there. Now it's destroyed. As is the Churchill. So yeah, a little bit of an overinvestment in terms of what was accomplished there. When you use a unit like an AVRE to destroy a key asset like a machine gun, right? You want to do that with everyone sort of on board, and I'm not blaming Dr. Nick for this. I think Dr. Nick was doing just about everything right here. He deleted a key unit to clear the way, and then attempted to lead a charge to attack that could have cleaned out a lot of extremely key units, like that pack and anything that the pack was protecting. But instead, he accomplished some of that, but took a lot of casualties in the process that I feel like he didn't necessarily need to take had his teammates been able to back him up as he moved in. So, good idea, poor execution, I suppose. This poor command tank here is just soaking up pop, and the Axis are deliberately not destroying it, I think. Now Sneakerhead's gonna come in and just munch up that kill. But yeah, this is like 2 or 3 pop that is just doing nothing but providing line of sight, I guess, for the allies. So that's that gone. This howither's been sitting here for a while after its last barrage. I wonder if it's ready to go yet. It's only got 1 kill on it. That would have been a great thing to sort of augment this attack that the that Gobble Slayer was trying to make over here. This Firefly is still on. It's real banged up. Doesn't look like JJ Punk as Commandos really has a whole lot to repair things with, which is, I mean, understandable. The bulk of your munitions are going into Commandos. But I point this out because one good hit from this Marder would take that out, and instead he's going to back up because he sees all this and he doesn't know what the Allies have in store for anti-tank. I think Axis are very wary of all of these Piats that JJ Punk has been using all game. They don't really realize that there's nothing really here that could kill that Marder except for the Firefly, and the Firefly would be a much easier kill for the Marder than the other way around. Right, if that Marder just gets right up here and hits that Firefly, there's frickin' nothing here to stop them. But instead it's gone off over to the right to help with the Sherman, I suppose. And it seems as though they're gonna do okay for the moment without its help, just because this Firefly has so few hit points. Nice landmine is going to put a little bit of a pin in that counterattack here, though. So game is slowing down a little bit. The Axis are bleeding pop, but they have nearly neutralized it. If they can get control of these 2 sectors that they have neutral, they will be equivalent. In the meantime, they are at a very severe population deficit. 33 population against 40 for the Allies. So they're going to need to do everything they can to get the Allies out of this sector, and this sector, and even it up. And that way they can start equalizing pop. Because you gain population much faster than you lose it, right? You can see the Allies who have half the map have earned 1 pop gain a minute. Obviously they're at max, so they're not actually getting anything, but that's what they have score-wise. Whereas the Axis are missing just 3 sectors out of it, and they are losing 0.21. If they were to grab these, I am fairly certain they would start gaining population back fairly quickly and get themselves in a fairly even position as long as they can hold on to it. So here's 1 out of the 3. They just need to evict this rifle section and this machine gun, and they're good to go. And so we'll see what the Allies are going to do to try to stop that from happening. For the time being, it looks like just heal their units. Just let this unit, this machine gun here, sort of... Oh, artillery! Uh-oh, mortar emplacement. There's that crew gone. This mortar is still in the emplacement, so it can't be recrewed. Alright, here comes a push on the left now. Ooh, something's gone down. This poor machine gun is not long for this world either. So the Axis have secured this territory here, so it is now all evened up. This territory in the middle is the only one that's neutral. You can see the Axis are now gaining 1 pop a minute. If they can sustain this, then they'll be in a much better position. But for the time being, it looks like the Allies are making a push on the left that the Axis are not prepared for. Stormtrout over here by himself. His teammates are rushing to support. They don't have a whole lot of anti-infantry, to be honest. They've got this Stew, which is fine. They've got this mortar half-track, which is fine. But they don't have anything for all these commando blobs, really. Well, I say that. JJ Punk goes and gets his officers killed. You don't like to see that. This is a Stuk. The Stew is back here. Let's see if this pays off. It does. Another good hit could kill the Sherman too, but it bounces. Let's see who wins this. Sneakerhead's desperately trying to stay moving so that he can't get set up for the AP shot. Sherman's got this surely. Oh man, the Stug did it. Nicely done, Sneakerhead. That was a very brave play combined with more than a little bit of luck. but a great double pick on the Sherman and the Firefly removes those from the board. It's going to clear the way for his teammates to just sweep in and eliminate all of this stuff, because this command tank doesn't have a gun, and the aviary is on a timer. It has to pick what to shoot at, and it's going to pick to shoot at this infantry. It does a lot of good damage to it, but it doesn't finish up the Panzerschreck guy. So the Axis push now. They could press their advantage and take out this CCL. So there's a new Firefly from JJ Punk, so that's going to slow that down a little bit for sure. Still, a pretty solid play from the Axis there. A fair question from Sneakerhead. I like to see this. He recognizes that he's got these two units that have, I'll be honest, he's gotten some pretty decent mileage out of. And this is definitely sort of what you want to consider right now. Should you pull them off and or suicide them and replace them, or should you spend the amount of time it's going to take repairing them? Because they're both really banged up. While the rest of your team sort of fights without these units in play. If I were him, the answer would be the former. I would either, use them until they die or pull them off, or maybe do that with one and repair the other, because there's a lot of repair assets on, you can see. If you get them all focusing on one of these two units, you could get it back into fighting shape relatively quickly. But instead it looks like he's going to opt to try to fix up both, and you can see this one being repaired fairly quickly, so maybe they just have so much repair on the field that they can afford to sort of slow down the game a little bit, buy some time for this stew to get repaired and then the stew to get repaired. We'll see. The Allies are going to make a push now. Don't want to let the Axis just sort of sit around and repair their units in the wake of that defeat that they were just dealt. And sure enough, Sneakerhead is going to send these units back to the fight. I'm rather surprised just how quickly these are being repaired. Like, I realize there's a lot of repairs on the Berg and the repair bunkers, but I mean, holy cow. That's some zippy fix-em-ups. So here's the Hummel barrage. 17 kills on this Hummel now, compared to what? 1 for Area's howitzer? I feel like Area had to have forgotten about this howitzer. I suppose repairing was the right call in this specific situation, just because their repairs are so hefty. These units are basically able to just sort of repair in the fight. The problem is the Axis don't really have a whole lot else besides these Stugs and the Martyr to stop this push, right? The one big barrage from the howitzer got a lot of kills on it, but this stew under fire from the Firefly trying to hide behind this thing here, now going down, is just about all that there was here to stop all of these. Oh, interesting. Be interested to see how this goes. I like the very aggressive play. Sneakerhead not afraid to make risky plays with this stew to get results. I very much like to see that. So somebody's all on field. That's going to be JJ Punk. 15 out of 15. So commandos are all on field. Let's see. Area, gigantic company, 15 out of 23. He's got plenty of room left. That makes sense. He's playing infantry. Haven't really seen any ranges from him, so I guess it's just a rifle spam company. Meanwhile, Dr. Nick, 12 out of 16. I suppose that makes sense to a degree. It's a tank-heavy company. These units sort of recycle themselves a lot, ideally. Stormtrout coming in here, making a great play for this howitzer to decrew it, but isn't, I think, going to be able to finish it off. If he gets one good shot off of these Panzerschrecks after they bail out, he might be able to do the job. And he does. Nice job. Great play from Stormtrout, getting that off the board. And he has plenty left in his company, so let's see how his teammates are doing. He's got 8 out of 17. Whiskey Jack's got 12 out of 17. And Sneakerhead's got 10 out of 16. So as much as the Axis have been pushed back this game, and they have been sort of fighting their way back tooth and claw, you can see they managed to get their way up to 38 pop there before they started losing it again. The Allies have been playing very aggressively and taking population. but they have been taking so many casualties in the process, and I think it partly comes down to the number of sort of piecemeal attacks that they've been making from time to time. They've been doing a little bit of both. They've been doing coordinated attacks that target lone enemies, like you saw happen over here a little while ago. And they've also been doing piecemeal attacks, like the one that Gobbo Slayer did, where he led what could have been a great push, but his teammates didn't really back him up. And so I think that is why the Allies have been taking a lot of casualties here, trying to vie for map control and eliminate key enemy units, while the Axis have just been, I guess, trading much more effectively, even as they get pushed back. So we'll see how that comes out in the end, where the Allies are able to sort of sustain the strategy and push the Axis off the map before they just run out of steam. My money right now says probably not, just because of the disparity in units left between the two. But I have seen more dramatic upsets before, and with these fancy new tanks on from Gobbo Slayer, this is a very big, beefy set of units that are going to have to be overcome here. Oh man. 2 command tanks. These don't stack anymore. These stacking was fixed. So I suspect one of these came on grouped with another tank and he really wanted the other tank. But nonetheless, both Cromwell command tanks and Churchill command tanks are good at crushing. Cromwell's because they're fast, and Churchill's because they have tank shock. So it's not like it's a total waste of pop. And plus it would let him split up his Firefly from the other units and still have a command unit to escort it. So it's not that bad. And I think right now the Allies are actually in an extremely good position, as much as I was saying before, just because the Axis don't have any concentrated anti-tank units that can take on this Firefly, this other Firefly, and this Aviary with the petard on it. And the Hummel goes down. So the Marders definitely going to want to prioritize the Firefly for sure. As damaged as the Aviary is, the Firefly is more damaged, and the Aviary, while extremely dangerous, is more cumbersome to use. But the Martyr, I think, is just on free fire, because it's just targeting all sorts of different who knows what. And Combo Slayer's poor tanks pathfinding on top of each other. There goes one of the command tanks. Whiskey Jack just charging this thing through the fog of war, trying to get the Firefly, but the command tank blocks it. And now Arya bringing his damaged Sherman in to try to save the day. Miss, or near miss, from the petard armor-piercing mortar. Oh man, here comes a Nashorn. This is... oh man, there's a lot going on right now. This is really just sort of coming down to the RNG of it, and that poor Martyr could not catch a break. And a misfire from the Nashorn as well, as the Sherman just gets right out the edge of its firing arc. Oh man, that is a great opportunity for the Allies that the Axis just weren't able to pick up. That Martyr could have done so much damage, but it got unlucky with a lot of misses, a lot of shots being blocked by one unit when he was going for the other. And really, I think there's a lot going on. You know, if that were the only unit that he were microing, I think perhaps he might have been able to micro it a little bit better. But you can see he's got other units on that he was probably paying attention to at the same time. It's very unfortunate, very lucky for the Allies that that went as it did, and they didn't lose more than they did. Mortar half-track in danger going down to this Firefly. Looks like he doesn't see it, and it does go down. And without the Berg anymore, Berg went down a while ago too, they're not going to have any way to deal with that. Here comes a Panzerschreck half-track rush, trying to deal with the Sherman. Half-track goes down, Sherman goes down. Wow, nice hit from the Firefly. You don't see that very often, but the Firefly is surely going to go down now. This Aviary isn't ready to go. The Aviary might go down too. Gobbo Slayer trying to use his command tank to push around and crush these Panzerschrecks. Command tank is going to go down. Yeah, it really does seem like the aviary. Now the aviary is ready. Who's going to get the shot off first? The aviary, but the Panzerschreck was too close inside the firing range. The aviary does go down, so good play from Whiskey Jack, taking out all those key assets. 4 tank kills now for these tank busters. Oh man, this is really coming down to it. Let's check the units left, right? Whiskey Jack is now all on field. Stormtrout has so much stuff left. Area also has this pretty solid amount of things left. JJ Punk is all on field as previously established. There's Cyan. Sneakerhead still has a decent amount of stuff. So both sides sort of starting to run out of fumes. Some players have some stuff left, some players don't. I think it's really going to come down to sort of, at this point, who has what left, rather than who has how much left. This Nashorn could take out this Firefly with some good scouting here. Looks like the Firefly is going to get away and they're going to settle for the triage. Churchill Croc up for Gabo. That's a good unit to have in the late game. These are really, the flamethrower on this is really good at critting out injured squads like these, right? Guys that have low hit points on a man. These just roll a million crits with their flamer and can just kill guys outright when they're low on health. And oh how the turntables. Looks like Whiskey Jack has captured this Victor's machine gun emplacement that was being a pain in the rear end for them a while ago. But here comes the Crocodile. Now you can see Era's really digging to the bottom of his company because he's got his anti-sniper calling on with no enemy snipers. Sneakerhead's bringing on... No, Sneakerhead is the commando player, right? No, Sneakerhead is... God, what team is Sneakerhead on? I'm losing track of who's who. Oh, here's the sniper, actually. But it's going to take shelter inside the half track? Or did it go down? He went down. Well, that's unfortunate for Sneakerhead. Because snipers can be very decisive units at this stage in the game with low unit density and every unit really mattering. So with that sniper gun, that's going to be a major attrition tool gone for the Allies. Sneakerhead does have this stew, which is going to be a decent tool to that end. But with this Crocodile here, there's not a whole lot it's going to be able to do against that. As a matter of fact, I don't know what anti-tank the Axis really have left, except for this Panzerschreck, who's in danger. Have a recon snipe, perhaps. And this Nashorn, that is really just sort of letting his teammates die. This Nashorn needs to get in there and do something about this Crocodile that is just ripping apart his teammates' units. There goes a Panzerschreck. Every anti-tank asset you lose at this stage of the game against players like Scots, Royal Scots Engineers, is the potential to be like the difference between a victory and a defeat, really. So there's the Firefly dealt with. So now I think it's just the Crocodile. Dr. Nick is all on field. If we switch to the other side, would that fix the minimap? No. Alright. Well, we'll stick like this for the time being. So, Gobbo Slayer, after netting 15 kills and sowing a lot of chaos with this Crocodile, is going to pull it back, I guess, because he doesn't want to run over this Nashorn. It is, of course, going to leave Area's troops to get run over. Area still has a few units left. So if he loses these, it's not the end of the world. But again, you want to really conserve units at this phase of the game. And it looks like this Crocodile is all that Gobbo Slayer has left. Is in a little bit of a pickle here. This Nashorn could very easily, honestly, just come up and kill it with the help of this half-track Panzerschrecks. And if that happens, I think it's probably going to be a game for the Allies. They have just burned through their stuff too quickly trying to attack push back the enemy. The Axis down to 30 population cap, but they still have stuff left, and for the most part the Allies don't. It's the power of the flamethrower though, jeez, just crit these guys. Alright, that's JJ Punk done with. And it's about to be Dr. Nick done with as well. Yeah, I think my prediction earlier was accurate. I do believe the Axis have this just because they've been able to preserve their units better even as they were being pushed back. Which seems to happen a lot in shoutcasts, just because the game was posted, because in reality, in real play, that is not very common. Most of the time, a team that spends as much time on the back foot as it did loses, but here come some Rangers causing some havoc. And I don't know if the Axis has anything to do with Rangers, actually. They've got some P-Grens, got some Stormtroopers. Yeah, so really it's going to be what sort of hat trick can area pull here. He's going to have to deal with 3 players. I don't love his odds, to be honest, but he does have a few reserve platoons left. He can do with this Nashorn. If he's got AP rounds on these 50 cal, I'm pretty sure that's the thing you can get. And he overwhelms this Nashorn with those and his Rangers. He could kill this Nashorn, and with that out of the way, that would be a big obstacle dealt with. But I suspect it's going to get away as he manages to sort of arc around this way in order to get backed up by his friendly troops, who are now going to be able to intercept these Rangers. Yeah, no go. No good. Axis surely have this one. I think I'm going to speed this up. Yep, there it is. There's the GG. So Sneakerwood's saying he did have a Tiger, he just did not get to use it, presumably because the Axis were pop-capped or something. Alright, well, that was that game. That was certainly interesting. Some very neat plays there. I liked to see... I really enjoyed watching Sneakerhead's use of the Stugs and the Stews. Those are some really sort of... I don't want to say second-rate units, but they're definitely sort of B-grade, right? They're very inexpensive, and he made some very good use of them, especially the Stew, which really is sort of a hit-or-miss unit, quite literally. Dr. Mick made some good plays with his Churchills. There's some interesting plays in this game. So well done to the Axis to sort of hold on by the skin of their teeth and conserve their units so that the Allies just sort of ran out of steam, pushing them back. And that was that game. Pretty straightforward. And that's that. Catch you guys in the next one.